you spoke about DJ Khaled. I know you didn't say much about him.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't say much about
I was giving him
Celeste.
grace because the conflict had just came to mainstream media, but now it's been 6 months and you're a piece of fucking dog shit. And his house got trashed in Palestine, and I'm so happy, and I hope he never goes back, and I hope if he does go back home, the Palestinians reject him. He will never gain the Arab community back on his side, ever. I know there's a lot of, especially with minorities, like sometimes they fuck up, but they kind of make it up later on, or they're like, you give him grace, or, you know, DJ Khaled will never recover from this. How dare you be this Arab entity, this exotic entity, and try to stand out in the mass and be like, I'm an Arab and I'm Palestinian and I'm the first to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then when your people are getting obliterated off the face of the planet, you don't have the balls to just be like, hey, we should have a ceasefire. No one's asking you to be political. No one's asking you to be an activist. No one's asking you to go and make speeches at protests, but you could use your platform. You have millions upon millions of followers. You know how many minds you would change if you just was like, hey, actually, Israel is kind of wrong. Stop killing my relatives back home. That's all you had to say, and you didn't because you're a coward and you don't want to lose those brand deals that you have. But in the long run, I wish him the worst in life.
I understand.
I wish his career implodes.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, this is the Nina interview, take 1. What's good, y'all? Welcome to Stranger Fruit. I am Donovan, and we are here with a very special guest. We have Nina Kharoufeh, stand-up comedian and amateur boxer. Nothing amateur about her. And I'm just so grateful for you being here, because the first time that I ever got to see you, and now I see you on the internet, and I'm like, oh, well, damn. You know, she's been out here, but the first time that I saw you was on Godfrey's podcast.
Yeah.
I encourage everyone right now to go to Godfrey's podcast and look up the Israel and Palestine conversation. That's the first time that I ever saw you. And when you were speaking, you literally made me get up on the couch. And I wish if I were there to help you
I needed
and
help.
defend you in that conversation, because first of all, that conversation happened in November. So this is like a month after October 7th, when a lot of people are now getting introduced to this conversation. People didn't know shit about Palestine. People didn't know shit about what was going on with Israel. All they knew was that Israel is a great place. It's marketed very well, and we don't know anything. But baby, when October 7th, it changed everything.
Yeah.
And so I was on this quest of getting as much information as I could possibly get. And then I got to that podcast. And when I tell you that I was triggered and I am not Palestinian, like I cannot even imagine how you felt when you were sitting there. So the first thing that I want to ask you, as someone who, this is not just a conversation for you, you have been impacted by this, your family has been impacted by this. Since that conversation and now, and seeing how much has changed. Like we're now seeing that like kids, I call them kids, but college students are like literally putting their lives on the line now that we can see they're met with so much violence. At the time that the episode aired, I remember watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I watched all of that shit. I did not see not one Palestinian anywhere to talk about the perspective of Palestinians. How did you feel when you got the opportunity to actually talk about this and was sort of met with an environment with a Zionist and having that on full display? What did it feel like in that moment?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. These conversations are very important and they're hard to have, so I greatly appreciate you. Shout out to Godfrey for having me on.
Yes.
He always gives me a platform to speak my truth on his podcast whenever anything's happening in my life, good or bad or political. So thank you, Godfrey. It was an interesting vibe that day because, again, I'm not really a political person. I'm not really like an activist, and I'm just a Palestinian living in America. I guess I have to be political because I'm Palestinian. It kind of just comes with it, kind of like being a black man in America. You're just kind of forced.
Just automatically.
Yeah, you kind of have no choice. So there was no conversations surrounding the Palestinian voice. It was all about Israel and poor them and they're the victims. And it was a lot of just victim blaming and how could the Palestinians do such an atrocity on the 7th? But like the problem didn't start on the 7th.
Right.
The problem started in 1948.
Right.
So just to have the whole world kind of neglect the context of the situation was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Obviously, any kind of terror attack is terrible. Any kind of innocent civilian lives being lost is terrible on any side. But to start on October 7th is not helping any situation. So the mainstream media kind of just ran with that and was like, well, the Arabs attacked the Jews on the 7th and they're savages. And it's like, well, they were kind of retaliating a lot of things. They didn't do it for no reason.
There was no context.
There was no context. It was just the Jews are getting attacked, which throughout history, obviously, the Jews have gone through horrific things.
Yeah.
But it took them 5 generations to go from victims to villains. So it's like, are they really that innocent?
And even that, I just wanted to touch on that really quickly because to your point, I think that like everyone should get the opportunity to talk about their trauma.
Yes.
Like talk about your trauma, but we've learned a lot about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally there was some semesters dedicated.
I learned more about the Holocaust than I learned about slavery, than I learned about the Native American genocide, than I learned about the truth of Thanksgiving. I learned about the Holocaust more than any other aspect of history, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I'm not saying they don't deserve it.
Right.
But we should learn all history and
agree.
the context of it so history doesn't repeat itself. Because like I said, it took them 5 generations to go from victims to villains. So it's like, did they really learn anything?
That's something for me that's a little bit scary because when I watched that podcast that you were on, I saw a lot of villain-like behavior.
Yes.
And to this point, though, I want to acknowledge Jonathan, too, because he was on that conversation. He joined us for this special. And, you know, I would say, like, it was such a great job on Godfrey's part to make sure that Jonathan was in the room as a Jewish man to sort of like offset the foolishness that was coming from one of the other panelists on the conversation.
Is an understatement.
Because she was offering a lot of shenanigans. But to have Jonathan sort of be there as like the voice of reason to say, no, you're lying.
Because what Zionists do is they hijack the Jewish religion to justify their behavior. And if you criticize them and if you criticize their antics or their government or anything like that, they label you as being anti-Semitic. Yeah. First of all, Arabs are Semites, so Arabs can't be anti-Semitic.
So the math don't math is what you're saying.
The math ain't mathing. So for you to be like, you're anti-Semitic, you're like, no, I'm not, I'm an Arab. Stop. Second of all, having a Jewish brother there to be like, you guys are wrong, helps our case to be like, you see, it's not about Arabs versus Jews.
Exactly.
It's about Zionism.
Exactly.
Zionism is what needs to be eradicated because Zionism is racism.
Well, let me actually go back a little bit and ask you about this idea of Jewish versus, you know, being Muslim or Arab. A lot of what we get in the media it is being about the religious aspect.
Yeah.
And so I know for me, like as I was unpacking this conversation, listening to interviews and reading, I got to a point where I was like, I don't know really how much of this, not from the Palestinian and Israeli perspective, but from the United States perspective, from the British perspective, is this really about religion? This seems to be about white supremacy doing white supremacist things.
It's absolutely white supremacy.
Right.
It's
just
absolutely
like on
them having an anchor in the Middle East to kind of control the region. I forgot which U.S. president it was. Maybe it was Joe Biden when he was younger. He said that Israel was their best investment.
He sure did.
If we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
Yeah, so give him Florida.
Right. I mean,
give him Florida. Florida sucks. Take out Disney World. Put it somewhere else because I love Disney. And just give him Florida.
Yeah. And I think
give him Alaska. No one's out there.
I think like even the conversation that people were having, because I think like a part of Africa was on, was like on the table.
Agenda, yeah.
That they would send Jewish folks to. But then like this idea of like, well, this is the promised land. This is the land of Israeli
Whatever
people.
happened to separating church and state though?
I mean, I thought that was what democracy meant. But I don't know what's going on.
That's what I don't understand. The whole myth of Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. First of all, it's a police state. You have to join the military when you turn 18. So how is that a democracy? Not only that,
I wish somebody would tell me I have to join the military it just would never happen.
Or you have to do like a religious retreat, or you go to jail.
Oh wow.
In a country where military service marks the start of every Israeli's grown-up life, aside from those exempt on religious grounds, The war has made avoiding it a political act.
I've been called a traitor. I've been told that I need to be deported, or I've been asked why I don't just move. But it's not such terrible stuff. I haven't gotten that yet. Like, I'll get that when I go to jail.
Yet Ben says he's determined to give up his freedom in order to remain free of a war that he simply doesn't believe in.
Yeah, that's why everyone in Israel, like, they're not innocent settlers. They're part of the problem. You go to like the towns surrounding like Jerusalem and you ask people like, where'd you come from? Like, oh, I was born in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But this is my promised land, and they just taken over Arab houses. And you're like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Was it Deborah Messing? She was born in Brooklyn. Her parents are Polish. She went to Israel for the first time and was like, I'm home.
I remember.
And you're like, wait,
I
what? You're like, what? Can you imagine her going to like Nigeria and be like, I'm home now. I'm Nigerian because I feel like I'm Nigerian. You're like, wait, you're a white woman from America.
Yeah.
You can't just feel like you're from somewhere and then claim it as home. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I want to actually...
I can't just be like, well, I really like dumplings, so I'm Chinese now because I felt great when I went to Hong Kong and I felt like I was home, and now I'm Chinese.
But people are giving that these days. People really are giving that, especially as it pertains to this, because as a black person, when I'm looking at this, it got very racial for me. And the first, in terms of like, this looks like this is an attack on brown people. I don't know what's going on here, but it looks like racism to me, white people in. And the first criticism that I got with making that inference was that race has nothing to do with this. Yeah. I mean, look, people in Israel look just like the people in Palestine. Yeah. In your opinion, how much does race actually play into this?
I think race plays into it for sure. I'm sure this is gonna get a lot of like people in the comments, but like Israelis hate black people. Israelis hate black people. The government has literally made speeches being like, we have to cut them out, like black people are a cancer.
Mm-hmm. Major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black Lives Matter starts there.
Afro-Palestinians get treated the worst out of all of them. So race does play a huge thing. I mean, even the Arabs that are living in Tel Aviv get secondhand treatment. They can't vote, they can't drive, they can't move within the region. They like this whole myth that Israelis treat Palestinians as equal. It's just like, no, it's not. Like my uncle who lives in the West Bank can't drive to Jerusalem.
Wow.
Because he has a yellow license plate and it needs to be blue. Like it's literally—
This is apartheid.
Yeah, it's an apartheid state. According to what apartheid is, Israel meets every qualification that makes it an apartheid state. Mm-hmm. So how people deny it is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Like you're like, are you in this realm? Like, are you in the universe? Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes me so angry. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you're not living in reality.
Yeah. When we first wanted to have this conversation, it was going to be between black and Jewish people. And like, Queen is over there. What's up, Queen? And Queen was on a conversation that we did many years ago. It was between the black and the Jewish community.
Yeah.
And this time when we were like, we need to have this conversation. I wanted to have it for years because we never put it out.
Yeah.
Because we were so worried that we were going to get canceled for putting out this episode. Because it went to places, baby. And one of the other people that we were working with was just like, no, we can't put it out. It's going to ruin our lives. So we never put it out. And so I've been waiting this whole time to have a conversation. But I said to a producer on the team, we have to talk to Palestinians. We cannot have a conversation about being black and Jewish without talking about Palestinians. Because as far as I'm concerned, Palestinians are tinted brown. There's a little bit of extra brownness going on over here. And so if you treat brown people like this, especially as we're conflating oftentimes Judaism and Zionism, I have to bring in brown people into the conversation because how could they possibly stand or like us as black people if these people are getting treated this way? And oftentimes people are like, I don't think that you should have Palestinian people in this conversation. It should be a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you that
Palestinians and black people have a lot in common in terms of being mistreated.
Absolutely. Which also
by a higher power, usually white.
Very white. Very white. And it's an interesting conversation because we were talking about this earlier about like Angela Davis, we have James Baldwin, we have a lot of like Malcolm X, a lot of black liberationists who have said, and spoken out publicly at a time, of course, when it wasn't popular, that Palestinians do not deserve this type of treatment, and this is white supremacy in action.
Yeah.
And I would say, like,
but I think the Jewish community, especially the Zionist community, community made it so, really went to town with like canceling people who spoke out against them. And it became just so taboo for so many years. Like I remember just a few years ago, Mark Lamont Hill got fired from CNN for saying a protest chant. That you don't see that happening nowadays. It's still a little taboo, but I think because of the masses, because people are like, wait, this is wrong. We should all speak out against it. You can't cancel 90% of the world because power to the people. Like you see all the protests, they're by the millions.
How do you feel about this? Because I can't think of a time when I've ever seen people respond this way to what's going on in Palestine. Obviously, this is very egregious.
It's about damn fucking time. It's about damn time. Like this didn't start in October. Like this started years ago. They've been for like the past maybe like 10 Ramadans. Every Ramadan, Israel bombs the Gaza Strip.
Oh wow!
And it's a clockwork. And it's funny because every year Ramadan moves up because it's on a lunar calendar. It's literal. It's like it's on schedule. They want to ruin their lives. They want to hurt them. They pick the most vulnerable times. And they've been doing this for years. So it's like, finally, the world is seeing what Israel really is. At a time where you can live stream genocide on your phone, no one can deny it anymore. You still have the fucking psycho people that are like, well, they shouldn't have done that on October 7th and we wouldn't have retaliated like that. And it's like, well, if you cared so much about the hostages, April 8, 9, 10, 11, Hamas was like, we'll give you back all the hostages, just stop killing us. And Israel was like, nah. So...
what's that about?
And then you have like the hostages that were exiting Gaza, waving white flags and got assassinated by the IDF. So it's like, first of all, you thought they were Palestinians. They were waving white flags, so clearly they weren't a threat. They weren't armed because they were hostages. And you're just killing anything you see. So you don't care about your hostages. You don't care. It was an excuse for a land grab.
Absolutely.
It was an excuse to mass murder Palestinians. It was an excuse to... There was a real estate event in Jersey, and they were selling Palestinian land.
I heard
and
about that.
They weren't letting Palestinians. They were throwing the Palestinians out.
I heard about that.
How are you going to tell me that this is about retaliation for the October 7th attack? I wholeheartedly believe, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I will bet every dollar I have, in 5, 10, 15 years, they will come out and say that they knew about the attack on October 7th. They just let it happen.
Absolutely.
They know who comes from Gaza.
But didn't they have the plans?
They had the plans. And it's like, if you guys know where the Hamas members are, because that's how you're bombing the hospitals, how didn't you know that they were going to attack on the 7th? You know where they are now, but you didn't know where they were on the 7th? Make it make sense.
I don't believe that shit for a second.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
And as a black person, I will say, like, when October 7th, of course, I put out a statement, this is terrible. I cannot believe that this happened.
Yeah.
My sympathies with the people of Israel. And I still feel that way to this day. No one has ever, I don't think that I've ever heard anybody go, good. I haven't seen that personally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people don't do that, but I think that a lot of people have learned through even just watching CNN, right? Or The View, or fucking any liberal or conservative, you get to see the dog whistles. I get to see the same thing that they do to black people, which is that we're talking about black people, but ain't no black people anywhere to be found. You can't find out one black person to speak up for ourselves. So I recognize that in the reporting.
That's what they used to do when Breonna Taylor, or like anytime there was like a big public outrage for like cops doing something to a black person, you'd have a panel of a bunch of white guys in suits talking about.
Well, I think.
Yeah, you're like, what? Shut the fuck up. Why are you even on the plane? Like, you have nothing to do with this.
Absolutely.
Stop speaking.
Yeah, and that's why we do this, because for me, when I saw all of that happening, I was like, why won't they? And you could see, because I'll give like The View as an example.
Yeah.
So there's Sunny, and she's Afro-Latina. And she was the only one, and she was scared. You could tell she was scared, but she was the only one who was like, I think we need to pay closer attention here to the fact that we do not see Palestinians on TV, and maybe why that is happening.
Yes.
Like, she was really scared to sort of like put it out there.
The only person who was like doing good work, and I hate to say this because he's such a piece of shit, is Piers Morgan.
I know, because he actually wasn't intimidated to put people on.
Why is Piers Morgan? You know the world is... Like, the rapture needs to come when I agree with Candace Owens on things.
Oh, God.
Because she's been speaking on this, and I'm just like, why is she making more sense than most of the people on TV right now?
A broken clock.
Right, twice a day.
Okay, that's what she's given, because she's a mess. But
Yes, and it's like Piers Morgan is giving the platform to for like Palestinian activists and Palestinian comedians and Arab comedians. And like with Bassem Youssef, like his wife is from the Gaza Strip. Like he's actually giving Arabs, and I forgot, he had us on this another panel the other day, and I forgot his name, but he told the woman Zionist that she was a deranged little monster. And it made me stop, because I was like, finally, someone's calling out these people, because Zionists if you're a Zionist and you're still defending the actions of Israel today, you're a deranged little monster.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a warmongering psychopath who you should have no friends.
Let me ask you a question.
Like, how do you have friends? How do people ask you how your day is and you support genocide? Like, who's hanging out with you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, from the global perspective, they're losing a lot of friends.
Like, if you're still like, I'm a Zionist and I support this, like, people are texting you, let's have coffee. Who are your friends? Like,
maybe they're just friends with each other.
It has to be.
Actually, let me take that back, because I don't know if they're being paid, but I have seen like certain Black people even mentioning that, like, you know, according to history and the way that things are playing out, that there are innocent Palestinians, of course, but then Hamas is sort of like this entity that overrides any sort of innocence, and Israel is being kind. They're the kindest army, and they're the most kind people of all time.
They're raping women in the hospitals. What's so kind about them? They shoot kids from on top of buildings in the West Bank. There's no Hamas in the West Bank. Why are they killing kids in the West Bank then? Right. There's no Hamas in Ramallah where there's tanks rolling in every single day shooting unarmed civilians. Mm-hmm. These soldiers are diabolical. They're taking photos with women's lingerie.
I've seen that.
And laughing.
And putting on like their Tinder profiles.
They're taking photos with like kids' shoes full of blood and being like, haha, LOL, like that. They're actual, like, they're Satan.
Yeah,
the IDF is the most moral army in the world. They're fucking sick.
Yes.
There was this one soldier, he made a video and he goes, oh honey, like he was talking to his daughter and he was like, this is your birthday gift. And he blew up a school in the Gaza Strip.
What the fuck?
So like, how are they moral? How are they?
And the press secretary.
And this is not a few. This is a majority of them. It's not like a few bad apples. It's a lot of bad apples. A few bad apples lead to a rotten tree. So
absolutely. And I want to talk about that because recently the press secretary, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, he said that there are 5 battalions in the IDF that were recently brought up on, or like more so recognized to do really incredibly anti-humane, evil things to Palestinians.
Yeah.
And he was acknowledging, so the reporter said to him, okay, well, what did they do? And what is the punishment? He was like, well, we can't speak about that right now. We're not at liberty to say that. And so I think like...
There's videos of IDF soldiers dragging dead Palestinian bodies and them kicking them. They're
peeing on them.
There's videos of soldiers peeing on dead Palestinians. Like innocent civilians.
Yeah.
Where is the morality?
Yeah,
in this?
I'm like, so why not just say what it is? And I think like that's a part of the gaslighting.
At least the Nazis were like, yeah, we're Nazis and we're psycho.
But don't you think Netanyahu is kind of given that? Like he's very like, we are not going to stop. The people in his cabinet are like, we are not going to stop. We want to see the Gaza Strip completely eradicated.
Yeah, they want
also
to
at the same time.
They're literally putting like Israeli flags on the beaches. It's
our beach now.
Yeah, so it's like people are still defending it, saying, "Oh, we want the hostages back." In Times Square, there's bring the hostages home. They're all dead because y'all killed them. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hamas didn't kill the hostages. In fact, the hostages that were released, that one woman, they asked her, "Did Hamas rape you?" She said, "No, but they wanted to."
Oh wow.
Did they rape you? No. Did they harm you? No. Did they feed you? Yes. Did they abuse you? No. But they were looking at me weird.
Look at the reaction. Everybody gasped at the same time.
Not condoning kidnapping, not condoning
right.
Not saying anything. The old woman that she gave the Hamas guy a hug.
I saw that. But you know what people would say?
Palestinians are not hugging IDF soldiers.
Right, but what people would say is that it's staged. It's not real. They're scared.
They're not scared. There was IDF soldiers bringing her home. In fact, there was a press conference and they were questioning her. And when she was answering in a way that they didn't like, they stopped the interview.
I saw that. I was like, y'all are not making a good case for yourself at all.
It's not what? Working. Like, there's been plenty years where Gaza was at war with Israel. At war, it's a massacre. It's insanity. It's always been a genocide. But there's been instances where they would stop after a few weeks because they were like, we want the hostages back. This has been going on for years, like I said. But I think this is the first time, at least that I can remember, where Israel just is like, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck how we look. We don't give a fuck what the world is saying. We don't give a fuck about international law. We don't give a fuck that South Africa is suing us for apartheid. We're just gonna do what we want to do. And the fact that no one can stop this is really like, it's scary.
Yeah,
it's like we're living in a dystopian world. Like it's scary that no one can make this stop.
Yeah, and the international court was like, we're gonna bring Netanyahu on charges, and he was like, I don't care. He literally was like, I call on the entire world to denounce the international court for wanting to bring charges against me. And I was like, dang, like this guy is giving you prime time Hitler realness, and everybody's acting like he's not.
And you know, it's fun when people would talk about like the Holocaust and stuff, they'd be like, well, we didn't know.
Yeah,
well,
same thing.
We found out later. And you're like, well, now you know that this is happening again. You have video of it. You have people live streaming from the Gaza Strip. You have people in tents being like, they told us to come get food and a bunch of snipers shot at us. Like, and now what?
Which is a war crime.
Now
it's
what?
Literally a war crime.
They obliterated every university. There's no
Mosques.
more colleges in the Gaza Strip. There's no more mosques. There's no more hospitals. They're raping women in the hospitals. Like, it's actual like horror movie sick things that they're doing to these Palestinians, and the world is either protesting against it, and you have these fucking pig cops beating protesters, beating students, beating professors. I saw a video of a professor getting arrested like very aggressively.
Yep, they slammed her face on the floor and everything.
And she's like, yo, I'm a professor, and these cops just don't care. And you know who taught the NYPD about the knee on the neck thing that killed a bunch of unarmed black men is the IDF. They get trained by Israel.
Yeah.
The whole like put your knee on their neck and let. So that's why I'm like, when I see black people like supporting Israel, there's very few, by the way, but I'm like, do you know that these people hate you guys? It's like Caitlyn Jenner. Like Caitlyn Jenner was just passing by a bunch of protesters, giving them the finger. I'm like, first of all,
Palestinians killed in their home. 15,000 Palestinians, children killed in their home.
Come on, you'll be all over.
What does it feel to be
You'll go everywhere.
What does it feel to be
Come
going
on,
into
girl, get your face
What does
out.
it feel to be going into a theater with all of these war criminals? Media is complicity in genocide.
We'll have 100 million views. What's your name?
Free Palestine.
What's your name? Free Israel.
there's something about Caitlyn Jenner that just rubs me the wrong
because
way.
Caitlyn Jenner has said a lot of anti-trans things.
Exactly.
And I think
it just doesn't make any sense.
This is why I don't take anything that Caitlyn Jenner says seriously, but I think that you bring up a great point when you talk about the way that the system lifts up people who are automatically used to dispel and denounce the same communities they say they want to represent.
She's so pro-Trump, and I'm like, Trump hates you. Trump hates the trans community. Trump hates everything you represent. Like, the Republican Party hates you. The Republican Party hates gay people. Like, it's like giving Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm. So you think she's a plant?
It's giving Stockholm syndrome.
I don't know. I don't trust Caitlyn Jenner. I don't trust none of the Kardashians. I think they're all here to play with our minds. They kind of like pushed in influencer culture, which I want to get into with you.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed a lot is that we're at a point now where when it comes to this plight for justice, a lot of people are conflating a lot of things. People are brands at the same time as they are pretending to be, rather they're people, but they're pretending to be brands.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things going on in the social space, which allows people to get a lot of not only misinformation, but disinformation. And one of the things that concerns me is that as it pertains to what's going on right now with Palestine, is that it could be just a moment. Yeah. Kind of like what we saw with George Floyd, where when George Floyd was murdered, we saw everybody get together, use your voices to actually push back against the system. And a lot of white people, Asian people, black people, Arab people were saying, this is fucked up. You saw Palestinians giving advice to black folks on what to do.
You saw Palestinians in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip graffitiing Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. I saw that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit concerned because we're very indoctrinated into social media culture. And we've seen the rise of people who are claiming to be this and that, but then speak against the same injustices that they became famous for, or rather being silent in times like now when we need to hear their voices.
Yeah.
And when I saw you on the podcast, you spoke about DJ Khaled. I know you didn't say much about him.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't say much about
I was giving him
Celeste.
grace because the conflict had just came to mainstream media, but now it's been 6 months and you're a piece of fucking dog shit. And his house got trashed in Palestine, and I'm so happy, and I hope he never goes back. And I hope if he does go back home, the Palestinians reject him. He will never gain the Arab community back on his side, ever. I know there's a lot of, especially with minorities, like sometimes they fuck up, but they kind of make it up later on, or they're like, you give him grace, or, you know, DJ Khaled will never recover from this. How dare you be this Arab entity, this exotic entity, and try to stand out in the mass and be like, I'm an Arab and I'm Palestinian and I'm the first to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then when your people are getting obliterated off the face of the planet, you don't have the balls to just be like, hey, we should have a ceasefire. No one's asking you to be political. No one's asking you to be an activist. No one's asking you to go and make speeches at protests, but you could use your platform. You have millions upon millions of followers. You know how many minds you would change if you just was like, hey, actually, Israel is kind of wrong. Stop killing my relatives back home. That's all you had to say, and you didn't because you're a coward, and you don't want to lose those brand deals that you have. But in the long run, like, I wish him the worst in life.
I understand.
I wish his career implodes.
I would say, as a black person, I was confuzzled. I was like, why isn't he saying anything?
And I'm like, there's so many other rappers, there's so many other hip hop artists, so many other musicians that aren't Arab, that aren't Palestinian. Kalani, you have like
Kalani was fiercely.
You have so many non-Arabs on our side supporting us. Like, you make us look bad that you're one of us and you're not even speaking on it. Like, it's hard to see all the other artists that aren't Arab really go to bat for us. And then DJ Khaled, one of us, is just silent. You're like, wow. It makes us look bad. It makes our community look bad. It makes us look like we're not unified. And I understand why some people don't speak on it because of career choices. I feel like it's cowardice, but I understand it. Like, it's not you don't have a dog in this fight. Why would you put your career on why would you risk your career to help us when our own people are not even helping us? Yeah. So I get that. So I get why people like the Kardashians, people like just influencers are not speaking on it because they're like, why would we? And then you have people like Justin Bieber posting a picture of Gaza, writing, pray for Israel. I know. And you're like, you dumb motherfucker. The disinformation, you don't even know what CNN has done that. So
a lot of people have done that because what they are.
Let's not forget about the fake 40 babies that AI
got beheaded?
They made AI generated footage of it. Ben Shapiro posted, and it was a picture of a dog. Like, AI made it, and there's a program that you could redo whatever the AI does, and it was a picture of a dog at the vet. And it was burned, and they're like, these are one of the babies that Hamas burned. And you're like, where's the mother? Where are the 40 sets of parents? Where are the funerals? Where's the funeral footage? Where are the names? You could look up right now 9/11 victims and have a list of every single person, their names and everything. Where's the 40 baby list? We live in a digital time.
But they dropped that. Didn't they drop the 40 babies?
After like 2 months, though. If you look at the podcast that I did with Godfrey, was in November, and a majority of the conversation was debunking the dead 40 babies. And you're like,
that's true.
Every outlet has said we were wrong. There was no rape kits. No one got raped. The 100 women that got raped, nobody got raped. The victims came out and was like, no, we didn't get raped. But you're still claiming it's projection. Zionists are obsessed with rape.
I mean,
because if you even see the footage of Zionists in America at the protest, they're all like, we hope you get raped.
I've seen that. What? It's so scary.
It's the weirdest thing. There was a woman at UCLA with the Israeli flag screaming, I hope you all get raped. And you're like, what's your obsession with it?
Yeah.
It's not their land. Jesus was a Jew. Do you know that? He was born there. The Jews were there first.
Oh, there were no Palestinians there.
Read the Old Testament. Read the New Testament.
Of course, and I know that there's over 400 Palestinian villages that were destroyed in 1948. What's called the Nakba.
Who was here first?
Indigenous people.
Right. So should we all be kidnapped and tortured, our babies put in an oven because we took it from the Native Americans?
No.
But yet you're living here. I think we should torture you and your family. Let's cut open your stomach, take out your fetuses,
this and throw it in an oven and then smell it while they torture you and cut off your body parts and rape you, make you naked and drag you through the street.
I just wish your kids gonna be there.
Yeah, you are fucking so stupid.
I wish they will rape you alive. They will film you, and if your mother will be alive, they will send the video for your mother to see how you burn. That's what I wish. And this is, if this is okay for you, so I don't know what you made from.
To wish that
it's terrible.
When I first saw it, I thought it was just a method of sort of just painting Arab people, painting Palestinians as terrorists and people who are just like morally corrupt and bankrupt, that they would resort to rape. Because when you think about rape, you have to be like a fucking psycho. You're getting like hard and turned on by like taking away somebody's power in that way and violating their body. It's sick. And
Arabs
so
don't rape Israelis. It's not a thing. It's never been reported. It's never been confirmed. There's never been a real accusation with people who have names. Like there's zero evidence of it.
So for you, this is just simply propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely. They asked the girl. They were like, she was like, no, but they were looking at me. You're like, bitch, you're a hostage. Of course they're looking at you. They're watching you so you don't run away. Like, of course they're looking at you, you stupid bitch. Like, it's just crazy.
It's really crazy.
And then you have other comedians, because I'm a comedian, so I focus more on comedians, and it really bothers me when comedians that I love are on the wrong side of history. For example, Tiffany Haddish. I've done shows with Tiffany in LA. Yeah. She was I actually went to one of her shows just as a fan, and she knew I was a comedian, and she let me do some time, which I thought was so nice. It was early in my career, so I was like, oh shit, I'm opening for Tiffany Haddish. Like, she was real nice. She was like, do whatever you want. Like, of course, girl. Like, she didn't have to do that for me, you know?
Yeah.
So I always spoke very highly of her. I loved her movies. I always thought she was just really funny. I know she had some problematic things and whatnot, and even that, I was like, well, it's allegations, you know?
Like benefit of the doubt.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
And I'm always going to defend a woman. I'm always going to defend a minority woman. I'm always going to defend a black woman, and I'm always going to defend a comedian. So she had so many things where I was like, well, let's just all calm down. And then she went to Israel and was making jokes. And I was like, this isn't funny.
I went over there to Israel. Palestinians was there, and they was telling me what it's like over there in Gaza, and they was telling me how hard it is to be from there. And I said, damn, it sound like you describing South Central LA on 10, bitch. Sound like you talking about 1982. It was crazy. And I'm very upset about the whole thing. I want there to be peace. We deserve peace. They deserve peace. Peace. And us over here causing turmoil over here don't create peace. You know what create peace? Take your ass over there. Go fuck they shit. Go over there. Protest today, parliament today. What, I don't even know what kind of judicial. I don't give a fuck.
And I'm not PC at all. I'm the most brave comedian. I say crazy shit. I don't care. I'm all for, like, if you're joking, it's fine. But it just wasn't the time.
Or the place.
It wasn't like, it was time and place. It was like, this is not it.
Like, literally.
Not it.
I thought that was so bizarre.
It was so bizarre. And it was like she was being coached by a team of people, of propagandists.
Yeah. Because weren't they bringing a lot of celebrities to come to Israel at that time to just like say everything is amazing? And she was one of them.
A few, because most people I feel were rejecting the offer. And then you have people like Amy Schumer, who have publicly came after, who has opened my DMs and never responded, BT dubs, because it said seen, so I know you saw it, bitch. Instagram DMs don't lie, where she was posting like memes and things about all people in Gaza are rapists. I
saw that shit. I'm not gonna lie.
She deleted it and then was like, I was just kidding.
But people have screenshots. Like, it lasts forever online.
That's not a joke. So I was really upset. I was like, you dumb joke stealing bitch. I used to defend you. Because, you know, comedians have writers. I'm like, it's probably her writers who did it. Like, you know, I'm never defending anyone ever again.
Not Amy Schumer, girl, no.
After October 7th has taught me I will never defend anybody publicly ever again, because they will turn around and wish death on my people. So I'm like, I'm done. Done defending people.
And you got to really see like the lengths that people go after October 7th. It was something completely For me, it's just new. I'm not a Palestinian person.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it from the Black perspective of like what it's like to be in the media space and see people just say a whole bunch of crazy shit about Black people and no one cares. Yeah. No one gives a fuck. But I wanted to pivot really quickly and ask you this question because we're talking a lot about multicultural coalition in this project about like how do we come together? And there's a Black Muslim woman, her name is Imani Bashir, and she was supposed to come on the show. She couldn't make it. But one of the things that she brought up, which I really wanted to hear your opinion on, was about the race part about this between the Arab community and the Black community. Yeah. She's a Black Muslim woman. And she said one of the most frustrating things, and she will always speak up for Palestine, but she's like one of the most painful things for her was to actually know that there is racism coming from the Arab community, especially in places that are Muslim spaces where she is not welcome, but because of what Black folk do, she feels like she still needs to be in the conversation to make sure that she's bringing attention and awareness for what's going on to Palestinians. Yeah. I'm curious to know, how do you feel about Black folks and let's say Arab folks in particular, we're not talking about Jewish folks right now, being able to coalesce with each other with this sort of elephant in the room of anti-Blackness?
It's sad. It's super sad that racism still exists in the Arab world because especially when it comes to like Islam in particular, there's more Black Muslims than Arab Muslims as a whole. Mm-hmm. So Black people are a majority of Muslims in the world. Yeah. So when it comes to Arab Muslims, are there racist Arab Muslims? Of course, there's racism across the globe. Sadly, you can't deny that. Like it's just a thing. I wish it wasn't, but I'm not going to deny that there's racist Arabs because it's just not accurate. It's just ignorance, I think. But I think in particular, things are changing now. I think the culture is shifting. I think there's more acceptance and there's more unity now because I think people are finally starting to realize people are fucking with us. And they have been throughout all of history, and we really need to stand together and unite against the common enemy, which is white supremacy and Zionism. Absolutely. And I think for the first time in history, Arabs and Black people are starting to realize, oh, we're the same. Oh, like people are trying, Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's definitely shifting, and there's more unity now than ever. Yeah. Which is really nice to see.
It is, and I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, please. We cannot make this a moment. We cannot just, because that's what we saw with George Floyd. Yeah. Oh no, Black Lives Matter is a thing.
And then it fizzled away.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, DEI. Who DEI? Where? Who? What? Yeah. We don't need this shit anymore. And so when I think about the potential, like multicultural coalition, I think that it's very important when it comes to freedom. And I was one of the Black people who was like, fuck them other people. Fuck the white people, fuck the Arab people, fuck the Chinese people, all of
Black
you.
Power.
I'm focused on Black people because I know that we have always been alone. It feels very, very lonely. And you can be in front of your face. You would have somebody's kneecap on somebody's neck and you will still say, well, what did he do? Well, who did he rape? What terrible thing was he doing? Because he deserves it automatically.
That's crazy that you said that because on the podcast, a relative of mine had gotten killed in the West Bank. He got shot at a protest.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
And I had brought it up and Karen goes, well, what did he do?
Yeah, she did.
And I said,
she sure did.
He was walking down the street and a sniper shot him. Mm-hmm. He was doing nothing.
Yeah.
He was literally doing nothing. And that was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is what Black people have been dealing with. I always knew, and I was always an ally, and I always had a lot of Black friends. I went to a very diverse high school. White people were the minority. It was all Blacks and Arabs. It was great. And even my college I went to, Montclair, was a lot of Black and Arabs too. And I'm a comedian. It's a majority Black run industry, there's more Black comedians than anything. And,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least the good ones.
Got you.
At least the good comedians. The goats are all Black men.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I never put it together
Murphy,
like that, but you're
Dave
right.
Chappelle, Patrice O'Neal, it's all Black men, the greats.
Bernie Mac, Hollaback.
So those are all the comedians I used to study, trying to be a better comedian, So it's interesting. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, because like my thing is like I don't want us to trauma bond. If trauma bonding is an entry point, fine. But my thing is like, how do we grow real roots in this? And I think like we can't unpack that right now. There's a lot of steps that are necessary to take in order for us to be able to like really sink our teeth into paying more attention to the things that unite us than to separate us.
Yeah.
But anti-Blackness just remains this elephant in the room that we have to address. I think like this is an important moment for people to realize that, like, yes, we're trauma bonding right now, but you saw yourself in our experience and we see ourselves in yours.
Yeah, like I said, I was always an ally, but I never really like felt what you guys go through until she looked at me and was like, what did he do? And I was like, oh,
right.
You stupid bitch.
Yes. And I want you
I was like, wow.
Yes.
Okay, now
I said you stupid bitch too. I remember that moment.
I was like, okay, now I could really say I'm an empathetic ally because I now I know the struggle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think a lot of people have now gotten to the position where it's like you can't say that you don't know, and now you can feel that on a cellular level. And it's you see it now. For example, you see the college students right now protesting, and you see black faces, you see brown faces, you see the Palestinians, you see Jewish people there, and people think that this is something. I think for like Gen Z, like this is something that's maybe a little bit more regular for them, right? Yeah. Because they're not, I'm a millennial. Our generation is still unpacking. Gen X was like, we finna be quiet. The baby boomers were a lot of the ones who still hold a lot of power.
Those are the racist ones.
Like they literally get up in the morning with their Wheaties thinking about like, who we gonna fuck up today? Like they're on some next shit. And so I'm thinking like with Gen Z.
Those are the ones who stormed the Capitol.
Absolutely. Where were the police in the riot gear that day? Where were they?
Joining the rioters.
We're still trying to figure that shit out. They were nowhere to be found.
You go to Columbia University on campus, they're acting as if it's like a foreign entity invading the United States and like starting a war. It's like, it's college students, just intense.
Exactly.
It's not that deep.
And let me ask you too about this, because there are a lot of Jewish kids out there. The media would
Shout out to Jewish Voices for Peace, by the way.
Yes.
They're an amazing organization, and they're Jewish run, and they're all like not in my name, and they're doing amazing, really, really, really great work. So thank you guys.
They really are. Jewish Voices for Peace, return our emails, goddammit, because we want to be able to talk to y'all too. Shit. But anyway, yes, I think like it's beautiful to see that there's a coalition of people that are out there right now. And sort of like going back to this piece about multicultural coalition, but honing in on the Jewish piece. Talk to me about your experience. I'm wondering, like, growing up and, you know, understanding probably better than the rest of us what Zionism is. Now that there is this push to conflate Zionism and Judaism, how do you navigate that as a Palestinian person?